Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. It'll really go a long way to grow the channel. So today we're going to be talking about applying to graduate school. This is a pretty standard thing across different schools and departments. Some variations in there, but I kind of want to talk about the things that you're going to have to do and things that I wish that I knew when I applied. So there's 4 things that you're going to have to really make sure that you get down when you apply to graduate school. You need to get your transcripts with your grades. You need to take the GRE, and sometimes a subject matter GRE. You need to write a personal statement, and you need to get letters of recommendation. And we're going to talk about all 4 of those today, and then we're going to go into some common myths about applying to graduate school and what they actually look for. So the first one is obvious, is your transcript. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about this. You need to get your transcript and send it over to them and show them what classes you took and what your GPA is. So we won't really go too much into that. What we'll do is talk more about the GRE. So there's a general GRE that everybody takes, and then there's subject matter GREs. So the way the GRE works is there's a verbal and a logic reasoning section, essentially. So you're going to have an English section and a math section. And the way this works is everyone applying to graduate school, whether you're applying for a biology department, a math or engineering department, an English department, psychology department, everyone takes the same GRE. And then all the scores from that GRE are weighted against each other. So, for example, if you score an 80% on the GRE in math, that means out of everyone in all the different departments and all the different areas of study that are taking the GRE, you are in the 80th percentile of everybody. Likewise, if you're in the 20th percentile for English, that means out of everybody applying, you're in the 20th percentile. And so why does it matter to keep in mind these percentiles and to keep in mind that everybody takes this? So if you're watching this video, most likely you're going to be applying for a basic biology department. And if that's the case, when you take, for example, math, you're competing against engineers and people that have studied math. And so it's very hard to score in the top couple percentile because they've just taken more math than you have and have studied math more than you. By the time that I took the GRE, I had not taken a math class in several years already. Likewise, though, if you are an engineer, it is very important to score well on the math section because you should have more math than most people taking the GRE. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing that is out there are what's called subject matter GREs. And those are GREs that specialize in a specific area. Now, it's very important when you apply for a program to take a look at what their basic requirements are. Usually they'll have requirements for what they're looking for as a GPA, what they're looking for as percentiles or scores for the GRE, and they'll list if they would like you to take a subject matter GRE. The departments that I applied to did not require a subject matter GRE, and so I didn't take one. But if yours does, you're going to need to prepare for that. Now, the best way to prepare for the GRE is either with a book or in a class. Either way is acceptable, and I've seen both ways been executed with good scores. I think that either way that you do, it works. And I think that a lot of times it comes down more to the person taking the GRE than necessarily the way that they studied for the GRE. But we can also make a video in the future about preparing for the GRE. Now, the last 2 things that you're going to need are a personal statement and a letter of recommendation. And you're going to need multiple letters of recommendation. And I think for the letters of recommendation, this is pretty self-explanatory. You need to go to faculty members that know you well. So not your parents, not a relative or a friend. You need to go to faculty members that either had you in a class or that you performed research with or that you know in some other way. And they need to write a letter of recommendation for you about why you would be a good fit for a graduate school program. Now, you're typically going to need 3 letters of recommendation, so you need to start thinking ahead of time who you should talk to. Now, for some of you, this might be the first time that you're getting a letter of recommendation, and it's important to know how this works. When getting a letter of recommendation, what you need to do is go to that faculty member and tell them, I'm applying for graduate school in these different departments, and this is what they require, and I would like for you to write a letter of recommendation for me. Now, typically they'll say okay as long as you're on a friendly basis, but they're going to ask for some things. They might ask for your CV. So send me your CV. Tell me what your grades are. Tell me what your goals are. Why do you want to go to graduate school? They want to be able to personalize their letter of recommendation for you, and that's a very good thing. Personalization is key, and that's going to carry over into your personal statement. When you write a personal statement, a lot of what you write is going to be similar from one graduate department to another. But what you need to do is also kind of tailor it a little bit to each department and say, I would like to go to department X because I think I would fit in well there and the courses that you guys teach are interesting, or I would like to go to department Z and I want to go there because I think the faculty members are outstanding. You need to kind of tailor it to each department a little bit. So these are the core things that you need to apply for graduate school. Now, what are some of the common myths about graduate school? I think the number one myth that gets perpetuated is you need to be a straight A student to get into graduate school. That is absolutely not true at all. When you apply for graduate school, the department is going to list what their requirements are. So we are looking for students that have a 3.5 GPA, that score in the 70th percentile or higher on the GRE. You need to send in a personal statement, and you need to give us email addresses for 3 people that we could ask for letters of recommendation, for example. That 3.5 GPA that I mentioned before is basically a way of weeding out applications. So if they get 100 applications, what they could do is they could say, okay, of these 100 applications, 50 of them didn't meet that minimum GPA, so we're going to toss them out the window. Now, is it possible to get into a program if you don't meet that minimum GPA? Yes, I know people that have gone into programs even though they had just below that minimum GPA, so it doesn't necessarily hurt to apply, but I would keep in mind that a lot of times the minimum GPA is used only as a weed out, and so if you don't hit that minimum requirement, there's a good chance they're going to just get rid of your application up front. So you don't need to be a straight A student. What you need is to hit that minimum cutoff. And the same kind of myth applies to the GRE, that you need to score in the top 10% for them to accept you. Actually, that's really not true. Usually the GRE scores, as same as the GPA, are just used as a way to weed out students. So this is a way to say, okay, students A, B, and C hit our minimum and the rest didn't, so we'll just weed out the rest of them. So that's kind of the way that weed outs work with the GPA and GRE. And so that leads us into what are actually the most important things when you apply to graduate school, because another myth is that the GPA and grades are the most important thing when you apply to graduate school. And if you're applying to medical school, your GPA and MCAT are very important. But in graduate school, it's more of a way to just weed people out. I would actually argue, and I've talked to some people that are on the committees that essentially select the students that will come in, and they've said to me, the number one thing that they actually look at is your personal statement. So after they've weeded people out based on GPA and GRE, the first thing they're going to look at is your personal statement. What do you have to say about yourself? Why are you interested in research? Why are you interested in this department? What are your career goals? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? How will going to this graduate school department help you to achieve your goal? The second most important thing that they will look at are your letters of recommendation. So people that are PhDs themselves and have been working in an academic institute or maybe in industry, wherever you might get these letter of recommendations, what do they think about you? Do they think that you have what it takes to go through graduate school? This is a very important thing. Once you've gone through graduate school, you kind of know what it takes to make it through, and you have an idea of what person may or may not be able to survive the grueling nature of graduate school. And so they want to know what their opinion is. Do you think this is someone that really would be a good fit or not? And believe it or not, when people write letters of recommendation, they are brutally honest. So if you don't think that a professor is going to write you a good letter of recommendation, don't do it. They can write a general letter of recommendation and not say anything great about you, but it'll stick out like a sore thumb, because people that really know the people that they're writing a letter of recommendation for will personalize it and will really emphasize just how special that person is. So if this is someone you don't know well, or they don't necessarily like you that much, don't even bother asking them to write you a letter of recommendation. Okay, so those are some of the common myths. What else do you need to know about applying for graduate school? I think one piece of information that you need to know is that it's very hard to get in. So in the year that I got into graduate school, there was over 200 people that applied and they only accepted 6 people. So if you do the math, it's a little under 3% acceptance rate. And this is pretty standard. I think medical school acceptance rates are more about 7%, and graduate school rates are even lower. So it's very difficult to get in. So because of that, I would definitely try to apply for more than one school. Definitely pick a range of schools and a range of departments. You want to vary it up. So some you maybe want to apply in a medical school, others you want to apply in a basic biology department, but I think varying what you apply to is really going to help your chances of getting in. Now, 2 other pieces of information that I want to share. One is another myth, and that is that you have to be at an excellent university in order to get into graduate school. This is the same thing as having a great GPA. Yes, it will help coming from a good university or having a good GPA, but it isn't a determining factor. So even if you're coming from a smaller school, don't feel discouraged or feel like there's no chance for you to get in. That's not really true. So still give it your best shot. And another piece of advice that I want to give is contacting department members. This is something I really, really wish that I knew when I first applied to graduate school. When you go to graduate school, it's not like an undergrad where you're in a department. In graduate school, yes, you are part of a department and a department will accept you, but really you work for one person, and that is the PI of the lab. You are basically their employee. So what does that mean? What that means is that if you're thinking of applying to the physiology department at the University of Iowa, it is totally okay for you to go to the physiology department at University of Iowa's website, pull up the faculty members that are there, look to see which ones you're interested in working for. Send them an email and say, "Hi, my name is Steve, and I'm interested in joining your lab because I think that what you do and this is interesting. Do you have an open position available for a graduate student? If you do, would we be able to talk on the phone or communicate by email about a possibility of me joining your lab? Here's my CV. Thank you and have a nice day." That's totally acceptable. And the reason that I wish I knew this ahead of time is that while a lot of people will just apply for graduate school programs, and you can get in that way, that's how I got into mine, was just applying to graduate school programs. It is easier to get in if you talk to a faculty member and that faculty member says, "Yes, I have an opening. I would like to have you as a graduate student in my lab." When you apply to the department, I will help to make sure that you get in through, whatever means. So contacting faculty members up front is really, really helpful. I wish I knew that, and I probably would have been able to get into some different departments had I known this. So with that, I think that we've kind of wrapped up this video. We talked about some of the things that you're going to need in order to apply to graduate school, and we talked about some of the myths associated with graduate school, and I gave you a little trick there at the end about how to communicate with some faculty members to try to boost your chance of getting into graduate school. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.